What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and this is a new series. At least I hope we can turn it into a series called If You Can't Find This, Buy That. Basically, since I've gotten involved in the YouTube and whiskey community, I've seen a lot of people put out a lot of opinions on if you can't find rare bottles of bourbon, buy this bottle instead. There's a gentleman named Whiskey Diz who is doing a series on TikTok right now, and if you think you're too good for TikTok or it's just a kid's app, go on there, search hashtag Bourbon TikTok, follow the top 15, 25 creators, get that For You page rolling for you in the bourbon world, and I promise you, you'll start to enjoy that app just a little bit more. But like I said, there's a gentleman named Whiskey Diz. I'm going to run his videos so you can see what kind of content he's putting out for this particular series, but he's got great content outside of this series, so make sure you check him out. Again, that's Whiskey Diz with 2 Z's. Let's check it out.
This one's getting harder and harder to find every day. Stagg Jr. If you can't find Stagg Jr., then look for Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. If you can't find that, how about Wild Turkey Rare Breed?
So there you have it. He's claiming if you can't find Stagg Jr., go out, find yourself an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof or the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Now, the Rare Breed should be pretty easy to find. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, it's out there. It's definitely easier to find than the Stagg Jr. So I poured these up blind. We had Marissa pour these up for me. She didn't want to be on camera, so we just did it off camera. We got the answer key over here. We've got the bottles over here, and we've got our 3 glasses right here. I can't find my blacked out Glencairns, but we're going to do it this way for tonight. Everybody knows before we get started, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. Damn, that's good. So there's a couple reasons I wanted to do this blind. Reason number one, I didn't want to have any bias when it came to my pick. If I knew which one was Stagg Jr. in the back of my mind, I would be thinking this has to be the best one. So it would start to throw off my opinion. And reason number two is because I want to see how similar these taste. And again, knowing which one's which, knowing I don't like Elijah Craig. If you don't know that, by the way, I don't like Elijah Craig. It's just not for me. I understand if you do. Knowing I love Wild Turkey and also knowing I love Stagg Jr., I didn't want there to be any bias in the flavor profiles that I get from these 3 glasses. So in no particular order, I'm going to go back to my first glass here, but let's talk about this Stagg Jr. This is coming out of Buffalo Trace. This is Sazerac. This is an undisclosed mash bill, although we know it's mash bill number 1, which is their low rye mash bill. Compare that to something like Heaven Hill and the Elijah Craig, coming out at 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley, and then my all-time favorite mash bill coming out of Wild Turkey, 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. Pair that with the fact that the Stagg Jr. comes in at almost 10 years old, the Elijah Craig has a 12-year age statement on it, and the Rare Breed is a combination of 6, 8, and 12-year bourbon. These 3 are very similar when it comes to the mash bill, when it comes to the age statement, and then we'll talk about the proofs here in a second. So obviously with the Elijah Craig and the Stagg Jr. here, different batches are going to give you different proofs. This Stagg Jr. is batch 17, which comes in at 128.7 proof. Then we have our Elijah Craig. This is batch A121, which comes in at 123.6 proof. Then we have our Wild Turkey Rare Breed coming in at 116.8 proof. So Stagg Jr. is going to be our most expensive bottle at $70 MSRP. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof coming in at $65, and the Wild Turkey coming in a very affordable $50 for a bottle of this. Wild Turkey Rare Breed's getting a lot of love on YouTube lately. I know ADHD Whiskey just did 4 or 5 videos of this. Bourbon Junkies did 3 or 4 videos comparing Wild Turkey Rare Breed to a lot of other bottles. So I'm excited to continue this series to see what this bottle does against other bottles and also how they compare to these 2 bottles right here. But let's get back into our first glass, our Penelope glass, and take one more sip. This is absolutely delicious, very hot, and I also get a lot of cherry on this. This is making me lean immediately towards that Stagg Jr. for this particular glass. I always get something funky when it comes to Elijah Craig, and the Wild Turkey, I hope, being one of my favorite lines, I can pick that glass out of these 3. This right here is just fantastic. This is exactly what I'm looking for in a glass of bourbon when I want to try it. I love that 115 proof range. Wild Turkey Rare Breed coming in at 116 proof. You get a lot of sweetness off the corn on this. You get a little bit of spice as well. This is just quintessential Wild Turkey. So I'm expecting that that's what this is coming out of my Bourbon of the Week glass. But let's get into the rabbit hole glass and see if we get the funkiness that we normally get from Elijah Craig. If this is Elijah Craig, this is a lot better than I remember. It's not my favorite. I do get a little bit of funkiness. There's something going on this, but this is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I think it's closer to this one. I think these 2 are definitely closer when it comes to the flavor profile, but this one over here, I'm going to try it again because I want to get past that initial shock that the proof gave me on this. This was my first glass of whiskey for the night, so coming in hot at 116, 123, or 126 proof, it was definitely going to give me a little bit more of that ethanol than these two glasses right here. Now, I will say this right now, and I will call this right now. Whiskey Diz absolutely nailed this when it came to the flavor profile on this. This drink's the hottest. This drink's the sweetest. These two drink almost identical. There's a little bit of funkiness on this, which is making me lean towards the Elijah Craig. There's a lot more sweetness on this, but it's not like crazy overload on the sweetness compared to the other two. I think it's more of that ethanol kick that I'm getting that's taking away from the sweetness, which is making me lean more towards this one being the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. I'm going to look like a fool if this is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, but I'm going to say that this one's my favorite of the three. I don't think it's the Stagg Junior either. Again, I think it's the Wild Turkey. Now we just got to decipher between these two and see which one we like better. This hits a little bit harder when it comes to the ethanol, but I also think the flavor profile is just slightly better. Gives me more of that cherry note. I do get a little bit of a cherry note on this, but let's see if we can pick out any other standout flavors. The third time that I sip this, it's absolutely fantastic. It gets rid of all of that ethanol now that I've really shocked my system of it. Still gives me those cherry notes. Still gives me a pretty good rye spice to it. I'm going to get back into this one, which again, I'm assuming is the Elijah Craig, and see if I can pick out any more notes from this one. So the last thing that I do notice off my rabbit hole glass here is the age behind it. It does seem like this is more of a 12-year versus like an 8 or 9-year that we probably get off the Stagg Junior, which again, I am assuming is this Penelope glass. I don't hate a 12-year-old bourbon. I love the Knob Creek 12-year. I usually like that 10 to 12-year range when it comes to the age statement on my bourbon, but something about the funkiness, the leather, the tannins, the oaks on this that I don't truly love compared to what I'm getting on this with that cherry note that is just outstanding and in your face. So if I'm going to call it right now, I'm going to say the Bourbon of the Week glass is my favorite. I'm going to say Penelope is my second favorite. I'm going to say Rabbit Hole is last, but there's no real loser here. And I'll be honest with you, whatever one of these happens to be Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, it definitely jumped up a notch in my book, standing up to these other two bottles in this blind tasting. And the last thing I want to do is give you a score on how good these bottles compare according to the person who gave them to you. So Whiskey Diz says if you can't find Stagg Junior, check out these two bottles. And I'm going to say 8.2. I think that if you can't find this, both of these are very good comparables. I think they differ a little bit, but at the same time, not enough to make me mad, especially knowing how hard it was for me to find a Stagg Junior. We're going to go with the Bourbon of the Week glass as my favorite. So let's finish this one off before we figure out what our answer key says. So here we go. Drum roll, please. We've got our answer key right here. Let's see what I just pray I didn't really pick Elijah Craig Barrel Proof as my number one, but let's get into it. Here's our list right here. As you can see, we have Penelope glass was our Stagg Junior. We called that. We had the Bourbon of the Week glass was Elijah Craig. Ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. Rabbit Hole was the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. It has finally happened. Elijah Craig A121 coming in hot as my favorite glass, beating out Stagg Junior and Wild Turkey Rare Breed. And this is why we do blinds, folks. I don't want to lie to you. I would go back and record this video if I wanted to lie to you, but I'm not going to do that. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof actually beat out Stagg Junior and Wild Turkey Rare Breed, and it's the A121, which wasn't even my favorite of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs. That's a really good glass. I think it sips under its proof. I think it has a lot more sweetness than I remember. This has been open for a very long time. I really cannot believe that. I feel like she's messing with me. Why would she put Elijah Craig Barrel Proof in my glass? We're going to take one more sip on our outro here, and we're going to let you guys go on that note, but everybody knows, whatever. That's really freaking good. I'm not going to knock it. That's really good. But listen, that's where we're going to leave you for this week. Check me out on Instagram. Check out the Patreon. Check out the Bourbon of the Week Discord. All of those links in the description below. I'm not even going to give you the whole spiel because I'm kind of upset that Elijah Craig Barrel Proof just beat out Stagg Junior and Wild Turkey Rare Breed. So I'm going to get a little drunk tonight and I'm going to go to sleep knowing that. But everybody else, please stay healthy, stay happy. Don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Damn.